Well, it depends upon which phase of my career you ask that question. And I think that if you ask me this question 2 years from now, I'm going to say that I think my greatest accomplishment has been this paradigm shift in the treatment of patients with schizophrenia. In fact, I like to just call them individuals with schizophrenia. I think that if this holds, that's going to be the most enduring accomplishment that I've made.
Do you have any regrets about your career? Anything you would change or do differently? These are questions from the audience.
I remember reading a book about George Bush. Right when he was asked that question, can I get back to you later on that?
Sure. Here's another question that's...
I'd like to answer that.
Oh, okay, sure.
Made mistakes, made many mistakes, but I think I've been able to capitalize on them. After I've gone down a blind alley or gone off on a tangent, I found that these mistakes that I made actually were information for me. So as many people know, I was in psychoanalysis for a long time, and I thought that many of the things that I learned, I thought that I learned in psychoanalysis, turned out to be wrong. So that then stimulated me to think of things that were right, things perhaps that were the opposite of what I had thought. So even the time that I spent in psychoanalysis, I think, was not wasted because it's a learning experience for me.
Well, another question from the audience that's pretty relevant to what's going on in the world today is, you have written on the topic of hate. You have a book on hate, and you've written extensively in that area. What's your reflections on promoting peace?
Well, I think in order to promote peace, you have to understand what causes hate. And one of the regrets that I have is that the book that I wrote called Prisoners of Hate has probably been one of the least read books that I've written, and yet I think in a way it could be the most important aspect. Now, the problem that I see in terms of intergroup hostility is that you see the same type of biases in between groups and between individuals that you see in people with psychiatric or psychological disorders. And so there's a tendency to see the other person, to see the other group in very negative terms. The image that one has of the other person, and I keep thinking of person because I got the idea in working with couples. I think I'm going to close my eyes because...
Still moving.
I had to move in order to look at these cards that are coming up from the audience.
And I keep thinking of what you're doing there. Okay, so the big problem is the image of the enemy. And this occurs in whether you're talking about a marriage situation or you're talking about two ethnic groups that hate each other. Each ethnic group has the identical image of the opposite person. They see the other group as malicious, as untrustworthy, as evil, as manipulative, and so on. And the tendency next is to dehumanize, distance themselves from them. And since they see them as evil, they get the idea that these other people have to be extinguished. They have to be exterminated. And that then is the essence of, to me, of group warfare. And so what one has to do, and there are people actually working in Europe who are trying to ameliorate these kind of group conflicts and try to get individuals to see each other as more human. Now, we once did a study of, we were asked to do a study of judges and plaintiff lawyers. It turns out that plaintiff lawyers and judges hate each other. The plaintiff lawyers claim that the judges are always trying to give them a hard time and overruling them, and the judges feel that the lawyers are being discourteous and so on. And so what we did is we did a reverse role play. And so we had the judges play the role of plaintiff lawyers and vice versa. And afterwards they would say, you know, now I, the real judge, can understand how the plaintiff feels. And the plaintiff lawyer would say, now I see how the judge feels. So this kind of role-playing was also used successfully by one of my mentees in Northern Ireland, where they were able to get the Catholics and the Protestants to do this kind of reverse role-play. And when they did that, they saw the other person in more human terms. So while we do have, probably through evolutionary dictates, hostility towards real enemies, we also have a way of correcting these notions. And so what I see in the future is some kind of mechanism would be set up so that people would be educated, or a mechanism would be set up to try to ameliorate this kind of negative casting of the other group.